Chapter 51. Alone? Yes. So, you came alone? Yes, that's what I said. Yes. Struggling to understand what was happening, Hwang Jong-gi looked back at the entire situation. Repeating the same words and the same questions in his mind, he awkwardly makes eye contact with his subordinate. Didn't he just say that just now? And then nodded with a slightly awkward face. It seemed like the child did come alone. Hwang Jong-gi turned his head and looked at the child in front of him. He had all sorts of thoughts racing through his mind. Was Mount Hua looking down on the Eunha merchants? Or was there a reason they sent this child? If not... At that moment, a peal of loud laughter was heard approaching from behind. How ridiculous! Young master, didn't I tell you? There is no need to meet with Mount Hua. Ki Mok-sung. He had followed Hwang Jong-gi to the front gate and continued to speak while struggling to stifle his laughter. What were they thinking by sending a little boy for help? They knew nothing but wanted to make use of this opportunity. They were too embarrassed to come in person, so they sent a child instead. Such petty tricks. Hwang Jong-gi's face hardened. It was obvious that Ki Mok-sung disliked Mount Hua just from his words. But now, Hwang Jong-gi was beginning to think the same. Is Elder Hyunjong of Mount Hua a man who would do such a thing? The Hyunjong that he knew was always a gentleman, despite being in trouble. It was unlikely for that man to send in a child alone. But was this a new reality? Young man, did you really come here alone? Yes. You mean that Mount Hua has sent you, a young Taoist, alone? Young Taoist? Chongmyung sighed deeply. To be treated like this because of this young body. There was a time when Chongmyung was Mount Hua and Mount Hua was Chongmyung. I'd rather die than suffer like this. But he could understand the reaction. A child who isn't even a physician comes and says they'll cure diseases that the best doctors in the world fail to treat. So he controlled himself. Young master? Yes. My name is Chongmyung, a third-class disciple of Mount Hua. I received the letter the young master sent to Mount Hua. I have a clue about the symptoms which were written in the letter, so I came to visit. All alone. It was an urgent matter, so I couldn't wait for the others to come. Isn't the elderly in critical condition? That was true. Hwang Jong-gi, who stared at Chongmyung, couldn't bring himself to trust that face. But he recalled a part of Chongmyung's words and hardened his face. You said you have a clue about my father's condition. Yes, that's right. Hwang Jong-gi clenched his fist. This is the first time someone said it outright. So far, so many people had come, but not one person had an idea of what was happening. Maybe. At that moment, he heard a snort from behind. The young child is already misleading you. How can a child know something that the great masters of the world don't? Young master, you can't listen to him any longer. But, young master, do you believe that little brat? Hwang Jong-gi bit his lip. At that moment, Chongmyung, who was listening, spoke out. By the way, who the hell are you to keep referring to me as a brat? Ki Mok-sung looked at Chongmyung with blank eyes. Are you asking me? Is there anyone other than you who used the word brat? You arrogant brat. Does this mean that the disciples of Mount Hua can't even recognize the uniform of the Jongnam sect? I know that Mount Hua isn't doing great, but I didn't think they would be taking such idiotic disciples. Ah, the Jongnam sect. Chongmyung just shrugged his shoulders. Well, you were speaking as if you knew what you were talking about, so I thought you were a physician. So, do you have a cure for Master Huang's condition? Master Huang has fallen ill because he went against the Tao. If we can perform the Taoist ritual to relieve the anger of heaven, he will be healed cleanly. Chongmyung smiled at it. Oh, that could be true. Hwang Jong-gi's face contorted at it. But the words which flowed from Chongmyung's mouth were completely different from Hwang Jong-gi's expectations. Then we need to hurry up and call for the Udang sect or the Kunlun sect. What? Isn't this ritual thing what they specialize in? Ki Mok-sung frowned as he spoke with a slightly flustered face. There's no need to go that far. Isn't the Jongnam sect right here? Eh? Everyone knows that both the Jongnam and Mount Hua sects aren't good with rituals. If you're going to do a ritual, it would be better to get a proper expert. If it was me, I would prefer the Udang sect. Hwang Jong-gi's face darkened. Just who is this child? The child then whispered to Hwang Jong-gi, the Wudang sect tends to value trust, so donate a little and they will come to you right away. If you want to do something, then aim for the best quality, from a good place, a place that's cost-effective too. Ki Mok-sung lets out a furious bellow from his anger-flushed face. Shut up! This brat is constantly making fun of adults. Did your elders teach you this? Yeah, sorry. Chongmyung calmly picked his ears. He was blatantly disregarding Ki Mok-sung, but the man could do nothing but tremble in anger. If he was the elder, and he couldn't even bear the anger and lashed out, then it would be a disgrace for the Jungnam sect. Wouldn't that be enough for the people of the world to point their fingers at them? No one could tell if the child was doing this intentionally, but he was adept at pulling on every nerve. Young master, kick this brat out right now. Hwang Jong-gi sighed at those words. Elder, this is the Eunha Merchant Guild, not the Jungnam sect. It is up to me to decide how I will treat my guests. Are you still saying that after seeing how this child acts? Hwang Jong-gi ignored Ki Mok-sung and looked at Chongmyung. I want to believe him. If he came here to cheat them, then the child wouldn't be acting so proudly. But there was a bit of suspicion. Young Taoist. Yes. I am not saying this because I don't believe you. It's fine. You can't simply believe someone outright. Thank you for understanding. May I ask a few questions? Hwang Jong-gi asked right away. Chongmyung also felt that it was understandable for the other man to be suspicious. Yes, by all means. Hwang Jong-gi gulped and continued. Young man, you said a while ago that you had some clue about my father's condition. Can I hear a little bit about it? It's a bit hard to say. Afraid that Chongmyung would say something, Ki Mok-sung snorted. Hwang Jong-gi felt embarrassed about the absurdity. Instead, can I ask something? What is it? I heard that Master Hwang often traveled for the sake of business, right? Yes. Then he must have stopped by the Chilin Mountains before growing ill, right? Chongmyung spoke, brimming with confidence. Hwang Jong-gi was taken aback. His eyes opened wide and he looked at Chongmyung and said, No, he didn't. Chongmyung tilted his head slightly. Huh? That never happened. Father had never gone up those mountains. Ah, is that so? Chongmyung seemed flustered and Hwang Jong-gi's expression began to turn gloomy. So Chongmyung hastily said, Then he must have been attacked in the upper parts of the mountains before, right? Did he experience a crisis of some sort? My father hasn't been attacked at all in recent years. At least, not for the past 5 years. Huh? Not that too? Ah, shit. Then what? Hwang Jong-gi narrowed his eyes. Really? That can't be right. Hwang Jong-gi could hear Ki Mok-sung laughing from behind. That's strange. Where did he get beat up? Beat up? This crazy bastard. Was this child even in his right mind? It was at the moment the hope Hwang Jong-gi saw in Chongmyung disappeared. Hwang Jong-gi's eyes turned cold. Chongmyung spoke in a panic. Wait, is that true? Well, I can still fix him. Young Taoist. Hwang Jong-gi sighed, and without missing the moment, Ki Mok-sung came in. Didn't I say they were nothing now? Mount Hua was always made of rookies who like to dazzle the other's eyes. Isn't that something you can see from this one's overconfident form? Please refrain from speaking like that, elder. Hwang Jong-gi dissuaded Ki Mok-sung and spoke to Chongmyung. I understand the will of the young Taoist to come and help, but my father is very ill right now, and I don't have the time for this. I hope you can understand my current position too. His entire body turns red as if he's boiling, but his body shivers as though it's cold. When you press his skin with your fingers or hand, the pressed part turns white and then quickly turns red again. Until he lost consciousness, he complained about the cold as if he was in a frozen cave because of the uncontrollable chills. Furthermore, the black spots are not only the glabella, but also on the back of his neck and crown of his head. Should I say more? Chongmyung smirked. How did you know? Hwang Jong-gi's eyes widened. The face and form of Chongmyung were so confident that he couldn't doubt him anymore. I came from a long way. I'm a little thirsty. What are you waiting for? Get water right now. No, get cold water. Right now. The subordinate didn't even answer and ran inside with all his might. Hwang Jong-gi's gaze and attitude had changed towards Chongmyung. We can't do this here. Please, come inside. A great person has come. Hurry, please. Chongmyung inflated his chest and followed Hwang Jong-gi inside. Ki Mok-seung, who was watching from the side, exclaimed urgently, Young master, those are typical symptoms for those who suffer from harmful ki. Knowing that doesn't change anything. Hwang Jong-gi narrowed his eyes. Are you saying that a black ki gathers on the crown and back of the neck of those who have been affected by harmful ki flow? This is a matter of the Eunha Merchant Guild. We will not tolerate any more interference than necessary. If you interfere one more time, I will personally have to take this up to the Jongnam sect. Ki Mok-seung sighed and took a step back. His eyes looked at the child. Chongmyung had puffed up cheeks, clearly trying to hold back his laughter. You, brat! Ki Mok-seung felt heat rising all over his body. He wanted to tear the child apart, but what could he do? As Hwang Jong-gi said, this wasn't the Jongnam sect, but the Eunha Guild. No matter how much of an elder he was, he couldn't act arrogantly here. You brat, if you cannot treat Master Hwang properly, I will personally strike you down. All he could do was shove Chongmyung and walk away furiously. After a little while, Hwang Jong-gi spoke with a bitter smile. I am sorry, young Taoist. Strangely, whenever Mount Hua comes up, the Jongnam sect seems to lose all reason. It's fine. Please understand. Who's to blame? It was all my sins to begin with. Huh? Chongmyung shrugged. Maybe I shouldn't have beaten them so much. At this moment, the perpetrator from 100 years ago sympathized with the victims 100 years later.